This is Mark Shepard, Canton Everett, Delaware III, and you're listening to Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 65. And I did not get molested by a fangirl in Kansas City. But my friend Blake did.
Really?
Several times, apparently. His Tookus got pinched several times throughout the entire con experience.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Blake was not in costume.
I know. Apparently one time it was like a group of 14-year-old girls that wandered past, and he was like, whoa! And then as after they passed, he turned around and he heard them giggling. So.
Should we introduce ourselves?
I'm Keith.
Apparently, I hung out in the wrong group because I also did not get pinched by 14-year-old girls in Kansas City. I wonder what Blake's secret is.
I don't know.
I'm really, really thrown, but not that Blake's not a bad-looking guy or anything. But
who are you?
I'm thrown. I'm Sean.
And I'm Glenn.
I'm talking about chicks. Of course, who else would I be? I mean, come on.
Did you guys do anything fun this week?
No, pretty boring week.
Nah, nothing going on.
Nothing going on at all.
No.
We'll get into all
Dropped
that.
a lot of money.
We could talk about. We went and saw. All three of us went and saw Hunger Games.
We did. Yeah. Not together. You guys saw it together.
We saw it together in IMAX.
Yeah, I saw it here in good old-fashioned regular.
IMAX.
And
I still have never seen an IMAX film.
Really?
No, that's not true. I've seen the IMAX films that are supposed to be seen in IMAX. Not the. We're going to make a major motion picture and just make it really huge.
You've been to the Keith experience. Keith commented he'd never been to a real IMAX theater. He'd just been to like ones at the zoo.
Yeah.
So you've never.
I've been to the Omniplex in Hutchison at the Cosmosphere.
Incredidome.
With the dome and seen the ones on that one.
You've gone to the informative.
I've been
the
to
documentaries.
I went to
That's
IMAX before there was real IMAX. That's what they were showing them on, were those dome.
Okay, we're organizing a trip. We're going to go see something in IMAX together.
And I would like.
I don't want to see. That's why I haven't. I don't. My regular movie picture does not have to be 10 stories high. To me, that's ridiculous. That's
aside from the size of this, and of course, if you're back far enough, the size isn't.
If you're back far enough, what's the point?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you don't want to be craning up and not be able to see anything.
That's the problem. Is I don't need. I mean, I'm already looking all over the dang screen when I'm watching a regular movie on a regular size screen. I don't have to have it 10 stories tall. I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Of the film on the IMAX screen, far superior than what we have here.
Well,
it's like watching a Blu-ray.
I'm sure that the resolution is a lot better, but again, if I'm having to move my head
I didn't have to
as
move
opposed
my
to
head
my
that much.
eyes,
Just wait. This is a joke that Sarah won't get, but just wait. We get it, and we do it, and it'll be fine. And you see.
If nothing else,
you like this.
The theaters are just amazing.
That was a Princess Bride joke. That's why Sarah won't get it. Not Columbo. No, what we need to do is we need to go down to Wichita and go to the Warren.
The Warren's different though because the Warren isn't technically IMAX.
No, it is. They built an IMAX.
Oh, is it
down there
now?
at the Warren? And it's the IMAX. I mean, of course,
but I appreciate
it's Bill Warren. So I
appreciate the Warren for what the Warren is, with the drinks and the food and all that.
Well,
that's
cool.
the
one we went to.
That's
optional. You don't have to do that. They have other.
Yeah, but if you're going to go do it, do that.
But at the Warren, they built an IMAX theater and it shows 3D and the digital laser sound and all that good stuff. And since they built it, the IMAX at the Warren in Wichita, Kansas, outperforms IMAX theaters in New York and L.A.
I don't doubt that
consistently since they.
I don't doubt that in any way
because
people are looking for bigger, better, and I don't know that it's better, but it's bigger. And
I thoroughly enjoyed the experience, regardless.
That's good.
We'll find something.
I should give it a try.
Yeah, we'll find something cool. We'll find something
but
worthwhile.
It's never been appealing to me.
I mean, I wouldn't go see Daddy Daycare in IMAX. I wouldn't go say Daycare in a regular theater, but we'll go find something cool.
If they have a non-3D Avengers, I would love to see that.
There you go.
Anyway, so we saw Hunger Games this weekend.
And I think
the
consensus between the three of us It was a good film.
It was a good
It
film.
was a very, very good film.
My stance on it is there was a lot cut out I would have liked to see in, but if nothing else, if anybody who hadn't read the book went and saw it, they would have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
They would have liked it. They would go see the second one, and hopefully they would then go read the books.
Yeah, hopefully that's always, for me, the key is anytime you're dealing with an adaptation, is that hopefully it spurs enough interest in you, I want to go read the book now, because the books are always better, most of the time.
There was more good about it than what they cut out.
And Glenn agreed?
Agreed.
He didn't have it.
No, I didn't
Yeah.
think. I thought what they cut out was fine. There was just a few things that I would have liked to have seen, but nothing that was cut that was necessary for a film version of this. I mean, there's things in the book that give you a lot more to it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I appreciated the way they did it. It is a young reader's novel. By that I mean teenagers and above, and it was done well for the kind of audience that they're going to draw for this. I'm glad it was PG-13. I'm glad it was cut to be PG-13, and I very little that I could complain about.
My only bigger complaint was
My only bigger complaint.
Well, I mean,
My only huge complaint was my only gigantic complaint.
my only main complaint was that it just didn't have the emotional resonance that I remember the first book having.
I think you're right, but I think that's true with most books that are made into film too.
Yeah.
Though, so.
So
I agree. I liked it. I thought it was very well done. I thought it was a very faithful adaptation. Yes, there was stuff that was cut out that I would have liked
and
to have seen
stuff
in
added in.
There was
which
a-
I liked the stuff.
Yeah,
added
the things
in,
added in actually
things
made
that
the
were added
narrative
in
work.
were very impressive.
considering they couldn't do the narrative
Well, it's
from
just
the
it.
book.
The
Yeah.
book is all from Katniss's point of view, and so you have to have ways to convey that for that the reader gets through essentially the narrative of the novel. You had to have a way to convey that, and the way that they did that was fantastic.
And some of the background of the arena. I thought the control room, that kind of stuff
Yes.
was
That's
very,
got to
very
see that,
cool.
yeah.
So,
Because you don't know how that works in the book. So that
all
was
in all,
nice.
well done and definitely worth your $8.25.
Absolutely.
So it had I looked online. It had the third highest grossing weekend.
Of anything, yeah.
Of anything.
From right behind
The-
Harry Potter.
Harry
and the
Potter
Deathly Hallows.
Part 2.
Part 2.
No, actually,
And it was the best March
It-
opening of anything.
it was behind Harry Potter, and then it was behind Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, Dark Knight was number
Was
two.
number two.
That's right.
So, and it's Lionsgate's highest grossing film of all time.
Not surprising. Lionsgate. They
I'm surprised
they
got
were
the-
right to get the.
I'm
rights
surprised
to
they
this.
got the rights to it with as big as it is.
Yeah. They.
Every now and then you get the lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're.
And they better not let go of it.
I think they were able to predict this lightning. They knew it was going to strike.
Well,
the clock tower.
I just mean that every now and then, as a smaller independent studio, every now and then you get lucky with something. You spend a lot of time producing your indie flicks, and then
Yes.
you branch out and you get something that's
Yes.
going to be
this
big.
could
so.
launch Lionsgate if they're going to do the other
Lionsgate's
two.
been doing pretty good in the last couple of years on their own.
But this could launch them up into the higher tier.
Yeah, they put up with the big studios maybe.
No.
Sean's shaking his head.
No.
If after Hunger Games they continue getting these big movies, if they
I
continue
don't,
on this path.
I don't mean
they could-
anything against Lionsgate. It's not going to happen. This is their one and done. I mean, they'll get a trilogy out of it, but it's not going to catapult them into. They just don't have the infrastructure that
They're
Paramount
on the same
or
level
Warner
now
Brothers
as
or-
Summit is.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, Twilight fans.
This is the equivalent of Orion getting RoboCop and being really excited for a little while, and then not so much anymore. So
You guys do anything else this weekend
Not
besides the con? I mean,
Not-
obviously we did the con.
fairly low key Sunday.
Yeah, Mason's birthday. Well, Mason's birthday is actually the 27th, which is Wednesday. Tuesday. But we had his party today, and that was a lot of fun. He got a lot of great gifts, so he's turning 4.
happy
Grew up
birthday
so
to Mason.
fast.
You can put that on the Traveling Vortex
I will.
website.
I'll have to Google
On
an image of
Tuesday.
him because I haven't got the Bartlett family Christmas card.
We don't send those anymore.
I'm sure there's some of
I'm sure we dropped off a lot of other people's Christmas cards list because of it too. But.
you could probably find one of 2 years ago when he dressed up as Edward for Halloween.
It wasn't Edward, but he was a vampire, yes. He wasn't sparkly. There's that one out there. I think I have last year's costume too, wearing his Buzz Lightyear.
I'll steal something off your Facebook page.
All right.
What else did we do? I didn't do any homework that I was saying I was going to.
You were on spring break all week.
I didn't do any video gaming that I said I was going to do.
I worked 3 of Glenn's shifts.
Yeah, you did. I was off Monday and Tuesday, and most of that was putting the house together for the party.
I did go see Bruce Hornsby.
Oh, that's
Friday
right.
night.
Yeah,
I left shooting early.
Which is why he wasn't at Friday Night Who.
Which is why I missed Friday Night Who. I was still driving back. Wow, got lost leaving Salina. This is the weird thing.
There's no loss to it. There's a 45-minute vortex you drive through everywhere you go.
I got into Salina okay.
It just follows you.
Well, I got into Salina okay, and then I didn't know where this place was at. It was at the Stiefel Theater downtown. And I just kind of instinctually turned and started going down the street, and I was like, you know where you're going? I'm like, nope, not a clue. This is where downtown's at. She goes, how do you know? I was like, I don't.
Did you see the core of the city? And
I couldn't even see that.
You can't, because Salina sits off the side of the road.
It's so far off the road. But the divining rod kicked in, and I kind of, and then I saw a sign that said historic downtown, take a left. I was like, oh, we'll go this way. And there it was. So
it was in historic, not modern downtown.
Modern downtown.
But that's what happens when you're ambling to your destination. You don't pay attention to the directions you went.
I do amble. I have a tendency to do that. So we got down there, and Bruce was fantastic. Put on a great show. Had a lot of fun. And enjoyed that, and then I got ready to leave, and I was like, well, don't forget we need to get gas before we head out of town. I was like, okay. So we left, and I turned down a street. I was like, oh, this looks like a major one. I'll take this one instead of going all the way back down to where I came in at. My major street ended at a cemetery.
Oh.
And then I had to take a detour around that and wound up on a country club road and thought, oh, this is going to be bad because I'm going to wind up in these big houses area, and, it's all going to be cul-de-sacs and, gated community or something. And we're driving
streets that don't really go northeast, northwest, east, south.
So we're driving and driving, and all of a sudden, there was no more town, and it was farm, nothing.
You're in central Kansas at that point. That's all there is out there.
We're driving, and I crossed some railroad tracks and had a grain elevator, which we passed something like that on the way in. So I'm like, okay, well, we must be getting close to 70, right?
It's Kansas. There's grain elevators on every end of town in some of those towns out there.
And we drove, and I was like, okay, it's time to pull over and get the GPS out because we're not where I think we were.
How long have you lived in Kansas that you know not to use grain elevators as landmarks?
Long enough to know better. So we pull up the thing. And
he doesn't travel that direction very often.
Apparently, because they're not a lot up here. They're all out west.
We made a detour and found another road that would go up and connect. And I don't know what had happened instead of heading north. Because that's the other thing. I really do. It sounds pretentious. I actually have a very, very good sense of direction. And even when I'm sitting in a building that I've never been in before, I instinctually know which way north is and can kind of figure my way back out. It's not a big deal. But for whatever reason, when we left and got twisted around in the country club area, we were headed east instead of north. So we were running parallel to 70.
So
it's pitch black.
No reference.
And man, the stars are pretty in central Kansas. There's a lot of them out there, too.
No light pollution.
Yeah.
But so we were running parallel to the highway. So we found this other road, and we're driving along. It's like, well, this one will get us there according to the little Google map that came up on the phone. And then we started seeing the road closed signs.
Oh, no.
It's like, are you kidding me? Well, the bridge was out. But it was the bridge that went over 70. So I rolled all the way up to the road closed barricade and turned onto the on-ramp and went down and got on the highway because it was like, I don't know if we're going to make it or not. It's like, I don't want to back off, but at the same time, I don't want to get stuck out here in the middle of nowhere. So I'm slowing down. I was like, what are you waiting on? The road's closed all the way up there. I was like, I don't know where the road's closed down. I'm not driving. We're on an incline. This feels like I'm going uphill. I'm not dropping off any bridge. But we eventually got back home. But yeah, after
you're here.
after that adventure, it was like, I just don't feel like jumping into Friday Night Who in the middle of it. So. Which would have been, as I predicted, about the end credits. I think we would have made it back.
That's probably about right.
So, and then Saturday we had a pretty eventful day, but we're going to hold off on that.
Yep.
So,
when you also had your first Five Guys experience,
I did have my first Five Guys experience. We did that. Which, if you don't have a Five Guys in your neighborhood, go find one. That's a quality burger.
Good burgers, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of you've had cheeseburger.
Mm-hmm. I have.
It's a place where you can get as many toppings as you want.
See, I would not equate it to cheeseburger at all.
It's the same principle.
No.
They don't have as big of a selection of toppings.
No. Cheeseburger is all about the toppings, and you pick and choose which ones you want on it. This is quality burger to begin with.
Here's
the burger, and then you can get it with everything, which includes all this, or you can pick and choose. But it's a dumbed down, simplified process as compared to cheap. Because with cheeseburger, I really have to think about what I want. I go in there and I'm like, it's almost too much. It's sensory overload for a hamburger. This was just, do you want this or not? It's like, yeah, okay. And they put it together, and it tasted more like a Bobo's, which doesn't mean anything to anybody here, but
a homemade burger.
It tastes more like a homemade burger than it does.
It's gotten great ratings across the country for their burgers.
Yeah, Zagat rated for like 20 years.
I was really looking forward to going to BD's, though.
I'm sorry, man. I was too.
That's all right.
Yeah.
In fact, I was stoked when Caitlin decided, I'll give it a try, because she's real picky, and I certainly don't think I'd found anything there for her. But
did you even check to see if they had a kids menu or not?
I didn't. No. By the time you came in and told me that,
I
was what I was going to do when we came back up after she changed out of her costume. I was going to go up there and ask for a kids menu or see if they had a kids menu. But too long of a wait.
Oh well. It was an eventful week for other things as well, but I think we're going to wait on all of that.
Yep, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
That's the bulk of our show.
We'll do news later.
We're going to head into feedback first this week because we're going to probably talk a little bit about news for a while. So,
first one is from William. Comment question: Evening Vortex Volk. I want to start off by offering a belated happy birthday to Sean.
Oh, thank you, William.
It seems we share a birthday, which is pretty nifty. Although I think I can top you on great Latin tie-ins, as my mom was literally bitten by a snake the day I was born. Beware the Ides of March.
Well, in that, I hope your mom's okay. Well, no lasting injury from the snake bite. Right. I hope you're okay. I hope it wasn't, she got bit in the belly or something. That would kind of suck. And belated happy birthday to you.
Yes.
My fellow 15th. What year? I'm just curious. I don't know. Let's see how close we really parallel, William. Now that
You're 73.
73.
How eerie would it be if it was the same year?
It would be pretty eerie. And then my next question would be William, have you seen Back to the Future 2? And when they get into the alternate timeline and he goes to the cemetery to find out what happened to George McFly, his father, and he kneels down and he's uncovering the tombstone, and engraved in the tombstone was died March 15th, 1973. Did you get the same little chill of, because I did. I thought that was
only
pretty creepy.
Your age.
Well, that was my birthday, man.
I know.
My birthday, engraved in stone in a Back to the Future film. It was just kind of...
That's all the way down to year.
Yeah, it was creepy.
Totally understand that.
Now to preface... onto something I've been meaning to bring up for a while regarding the Big Finish audio plays. Now to preface this, all I've listened to is the first season of the 8th Doctor Adventures. Side note, am I mad or did you skip that season? We did not skip that season.
Yeah, let's cover that one first.
That came later in the Big Finish run. We went to the beginning of the 8th Doctor.
We're in what's considered the main run, and that was the first run of Doctor Who. And what they were doing is they were sprinkling in all of the Doctors as we went. And what they would do is typically they would rotate between the three that they had signed, which is Peter Davison, Colin Baker, and Sylvester McCoy. And what they do is they would just rotate from each one to each one, and they do one with Davison, then they do one with Baker, then they do one with Sylvester McCoy, and they rinse and repeat. And then what they would do is they would get Paul McGann on a limited time frame essentially, and so he would come in and record literally three or four in a row in 1 month, and then they would run those together. And so that's how they ran the main line for a while. And then they decided to break off and do the Paul McGann because he was becoming such a popular audio doctor. And we all know there's a very limited amount of 8th Doctor material because there's only one televised story. And so that's when they splintered off and decided to do the 8th Doctor audios as its own separate entity.
And technically, in the 8th Doctor's timeline, we're doing him chronologically.
Technically, right now we are.
Yes, for the most part. So the
we'll
ones that you've listened
that technically happens before,
which are under the 8th Doctor Adventures banner, technically are kind of a separate series to what we've been reviewing so far in the main line. Now, don't worry, we will get to those and we will review them. And specifically, the 4 seasons that they did of 8th Doctor Adventures very, very much require a chronological continuity to listen to them because those adventures really do build on one another from moment one. And I want Keith to be able to experience that in all of its glory, because I think I'm the only one that's listened to those
I haven't listened
in its
to them
entirety
either.
here at the table. And we screw Keith over on a pretty regular basis when it comes to continuity on the show. So anytime I can get it in there for him, I want to try.
And as we jump around the Vortex in Doctor Who in general, we're going to do that in Big Finish.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we will be jumping all over Big Finish. So, but we will get to them.
he goes on to say, and although I enjoyed them as a whole, the production style took me aback. Shortly before listening to the season, I had been listening to a few products by a company called Graphic Audio, which do extremely elaborate audio productions, including narration, full scoring, sound effects, and rather large casts of fairly second-tier pulpy novels and DC comics. I was listening to Brandon Sanderson, one-off novels if you're interested in knowing. Anyway, the transition to Big Finish's more stripped-down production with lack of narration threw me for several episodes before I settled in. Does the production of the stories change over time, or is it always the minimalist, mostly dialogue-only style? If so, do you think the series could benefit from a more robust production? As always, thanks for your hard work and the great podcast you produce. Oyasumi William in Japan. I completely screwed that up. P.S. Did you guys
got closer than any of us could have gotten.
Did you guys get new hardware recently? I noticed a change in the audio a few episodes back, and I want to tell you it sounded great.
Nope. We just got a tip.
We just got new software.
We got a free program. It's called Levelator, and it's wonderful.
The one thing Sean brought back from Galley in the podcasters panel was Levelator.
That's right.
As for the production,
And it does make us sound glorious.
It does.
As for the production, I don't think it would need more. That would almost go into an audiobook format. These are so much audio or radio plays.
That's just what it is. These are audio dramas. These are audio plays, and the minimalist concept is the idea of, I think they're trying to mimic as much as they can the television series, which quite frankly is minimalist in its own right. Now that was because of production of the television series and why it had to be done that way. But I think what they do is they try to, in the same vein of the TV series, sort of have the same feel to them as the TV movies or the TV shows did. And so that's where the minimalism comes from. And I don't think I'd want them to be any more jazzy. They certainly don't need the narration. I think that's written well into the audio so that you can visualize what's really going on.
It's like if
in your own mind's
with
eye.
a few additional lines of dialogue describing people and creatures,
absolutely.
mostly creatures.
It's
like watching an episode with your eyes closed.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I can't speak to the Paul McGann audios, although you've obviously listened to those, so that's probably evidence enough that they don't. I don't think the production changes much and gets away from that style where we get a lot more of the score other than what we get, and certainly there's never ever any narration except for, I believe, the stage plays had some narration to fill some of the gaps.
The stage plays did. If they adapted a stage play, like what was the Dalek one that
the Seven Keys of Doomsday.
Seven Keys of Doomsday, and there was another one, something of the Daleks, Lost of the Daleks. They started off as stage plays that the Big Finish did. There is a slight difference in pacing.
Yes.
If you will, the Eighth Doctor adventures, because they were really designed to be broadcast on BBC Radio, they're kind of pared down to about an hour format. So I suppose in that respect, yes, you could say they're a little more minimalistic than the regular line, the main line of Big Finish audios, because they have such a tighter contained story. And I was kind of with you, William. That was my cutting my teeth on the Big Finish. I heard the Eighth Doctor audio adventures before I'd heard anything else. And then jumping into the main line, it kind of came as a shock that the main line's treated very much like an old school episode where it runs for 4 parts and, usually runs an hour and a half, 2 hours. So there's a lot more to them. But I don't know that I would really call any of the Big Finish stuff minimalistic necessarily.
Compared to what he's talking about
in comparison, and maybe I'm wrong because I haven't listened to, other than say the Dark Tower audio books. It's an actual audiobook. I've not heard.
Those are audiobooks, those.
I've listened to a lot of audiobooks, and it's obviously a complete difference. And even I picked up once one of the Hitchhiker's Guide radio plays, and it's very much in this same style.
Yes, that's what the Big Finish are much like, or the Hitchhiker's audio radio shows. Yeah.
So yeah, I can't vouch for whether or not it's a pared down. I don't think it would need narration. I mean, I enjoy the fact that, as you pointed out, it's just like watching an episode of Who. You're just not watching it. You're getting all of the ancillary stuff audially. And so yes, sometimes they're written with a little extra. Well, that looks like a giant blah blah blah.
More descriptive.
Instead of just having the monster show up, we have to be able to say what looks like a trash bag on wheels. And, going from there. But
now I will say the main line of what I've heard later in the series, the pacing does get better, the editing does get tighter, and they were probably ramping up to the styles that they did when they did when they spun it off and did the separate. Even the Gallifrey audios are probably
I'm
more
sure
tightly paced.
Early on, they're cutting their teeth trying to figure out the
pretty
best way
much
to do
because
this.
a lot of these were even rewrites of the audio visuals that they did back in the day before they grouped and became Big Finish. So.
But hopefully you'll enjoy them once you get into them.
Mm-hmm. And I find that the more I listen to them, the easier they are to
I would agree.
disseminate.
Yeah. Up next is Chrissy.
I'm here.
Chrissy.
Hi, Chrissy. Let me get here.
She says her subject line is, "Folks, you've got trouble in River City."
Chrissy writes, "Dear Vortex Boys, wow, there's a lot to talk about this week, isn't there? Number one, loved all of the Music Man references in last week's podcast, but you need one more guy to do the barbershop quartet thing.
Yeah,
just saying." We appear to have an opening, Chrissy. Can you sing? Because otherwise it's going to be hello.
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 Mimi.
One of the best parts of that movie.
No Muppets this week. Not doing it.
Heard barbershop quartet do Nirvana.
Oh. I watched the bonus features
You're
on
destroying
the Blu-ray.
the song. Sorry. The Matt Blair, Jack Black. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I watched the bonus features, the Scratching the Surface documentary on it. Thoroughly entertaining. Sounds like Stephen Fry,
Really?
and some of it is even done in.
It's not, by the way. I did
It's
go
not.
look it up. No.
It sounds like him, and it's done very much in that Hitchhiker's Guide style.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's so I tied it back into Doctor Who
Loosely.
loosely.
Mostly. All right. Number two, casting the new companion. Which we haven't got to yet, but we'll
talk about it.
We will.
That news is coming up.
Now, I don't know much about Jenna Louise Coleman. I remembered her from Captain America, but she didn't have a very big part. Chrissy, you're one up on me. 'Cause I read that, and I racked my brain. The only thing I think of is that maybe she was one of the aides in the office when they got to the British embassy type thing over there, but I couldn't remember her. No offense, Jenna. Or is it Jenna Louise? I don't know. Well, you hyphenate your name. Use both of them, I guess. She didn't have a very big part, but if Stephen Moffat is excited about her, then I think she's going to be great. I mentioned this on my blog, but I'm really, really tired of everyone being upset that Jenna Louise Coleman isn't what they want in a new companion. And it's ridiculous for people to be saying these negative things about her, especially when we don't even know what the companion is going to be like. For all we know, she could be a neon green slime alien from the planet Og. So until we know more about the Doctor's new companion, can people just chill out? Okay, I'm done with that.
And I read her blog entry about this, and I completely agree with her.
As with usual, and I think Stephen Moffat said it best, is that Doctor Who fans never seem to be happy unless they're upset about something. And it's much ado about nothing at this point. It's a new companion. She's going to come in. It's going to happen. Get over it. You can't complain about this. You don't know yet.
In Moffat we trust.
In Moffat we trust.
If he chose her, then there's a reason for it. And there's a vehicle for why. And the other thing I look at is, look at all the people that came out of the woodwork and said, Matt Smith, look at this guy. This guy he doesn't even look like the Doctor. This isn't going to work. And people are so in love with him now. And look what he's done with the Doctor. You can't judge it on initial casting. You just can't do it.
These are the same people that probably do complain about Matt Smith and he's just not David Tennant. It's like, you know what? He isn't, and he's not going to be. Get over it. Move
Thankfully.
on.
And how many people balked at the idea of Catherine Tate coming on?
Yeah. All right.
Me included, but I did that based on her already portrayal.
Well,
of Runaway and Runaway Bride.
Well,
I gave her a chance in Runaway Bride.
I'm sure there were people that balked at the idea of her just coming on in Runaway Bride.
That's true.
Time to get down to business. The challenge has been issued for me to defend the Fifth Doctor, and I'm going to take it. I actually had this written up a few weeks ago, but I didn't send it in for whatever reason. As requested, here it is now. I feel like we should have a judge's gavel noise or something. Court is now in session. The case for the defense of the Fifth Doctor. First up, Chrissy. First of all, I'm not going to be one of those fans who gets upset and offended when someone says they don't like my Doctor. The beauty of Doctor Who is that there are so many different facets to the stories, and things change so much over time that there's no possible way that everything is going to be everyone's favorite Doctor, companion, story, time period, one-off character, etc. But that also means that if something isn't quite to your taste with the show, don't worry. Something you will like will come along. That being said, I know full well that to a lot of people, Peter Davison is not their Doctor. In fact, for many of the reasons you guys and Mark McMarmite cited as to why Davison isn't their favorite, I use those same reasons as why I find the Fifth Doctor so likable. I like that he's the quiet, unassuming, nice guy. I like that he's soft-spoken and not brash and in-your-face all the time. I like that he's patient and methodical and not manic. In fact, I'd go so far to say that his meek personality makes moments like when he points a gun at Davros seem even more important, because he doesn't do that all the time. I know Keith hasn't seen Snake Dance, but I would argue that story makes the best use of Five's calm personality. In the first few episodes, he's manic and all over the place, but by the end of the story, spoilers, Keith,
La 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 la.
It's his calm demeanor that makes it possible for him to save the day. End spoilers.
That's not a spoiler.
Yet you haven't seen it. You might watch it and go, oh my God, she totally ruined the end of the movie.
He's always going to come out ahead. He's always going to save the day. It's the Doctor.
Oh, I cannot wait to listen to some of these. He also takes an interest in his companions, not just for their safety, but also if they're having a good experience in their travels. For the Fifth Doctor, it's not just about saving the day and having a live-in fan club on the TARDIS. He's got enough confidence in himself that he doesn't need someone to hand him test tubes and tell him he's brilliant. Even though Adric and Tegan are among the most annoying companions, the Doctor often shows his annoyance, and the Doctor often shows his annoyance with them, you can tell he's deeply affected by Adric's death. Well, anybody would be in that scenario. But he's also unnerved by Tegan's departure in Resurrection of the Daleks. She's disappointed in him and the way things have been going, and he just really takes her words to heart. And to his credit, the Doctor doesn't just write her off as the stupid Earth girl who was a pain in the neck more often than not. He resolves to change his ways and be better. I don't want you all thinking that I like my Doctor wimpy and soft and, let's all hold hands and sing campfire songs. Because the Fifth Doctor is not any of these things either. He can certainly pull off the man-of-action thing when occasion calls for it, and he does it quite well. But that's not his number one motivation, and it doesn't have to be. He's like that one friend you have who's usually quiet and unassuming, but when they do something bold and snappy, you take more notice than if they were always hogging the spotlight. Now, I know someone's going to swoop in and say, but the Doctor isn't supposed to be calm. He's supposed to be crazy and manic. And I'm going to say that a manic Doctor is fun from time to time. But it's nice to have one that's more low-key and only has a few quirks that pop up just to surprise everyone else. Besides, the Doctor's personality isn't set down in stone from her generation to regeneration, and the writer or producer that ever tries to do that is probably going to have a fight about it. I'd also say that Paul McGann's Doctor has some of the same calmness that Davidson's has, and that makes McGann as enjoyable Doctor to watch. This goes a long way in explaining why Tom Baker is just not my Doctor. He's good for a laugh, the scarf is iconic and all that, but I just can't get into his performance over a long period of time. To me, he comes off as arrogant and self-centered, and that really bugs me. I probably would not have watched much Doctor Who if he had been the one I was introduced to. So I guess it makes sense that I would be drawn to his successor, seeing how Davidson's Doctor is nearly the complete opposite of Tom Baker's Doctor. Bottom line, if I were to be the companion of any carnation of the Doctor, I would want to be the Fifth Doctor's companion, because he exudes a sense of calm and control, and I would probably get along with him on a personal level the best. Again, this is all my own personal taste, and I don't want to make anyone feel like they're wrong for liking or not liking different doctors or companions. But since you all asked for my 5-minute rebuttal, and I probably took more than 5, there you go. Now, I want to hear about your wonderful convention adventures. And Glenn, I have to give you and your daughter mad props for her costume. The pictures I saw of her as Supergirl were fantastic. I really liked the picture of her with Batman. That was quality. Oh, and Keith's costume was pretty good, too. And as always, Christy, thank you so much for your feedback and your email. And
I really like the point she brings up of that, and I didn't realize it until thinking back of what I've seen. But Davidson's portrayal of the Doctor is so very self-assured. He doesn't need all the praise. And I do like that about him.
It's certainly, reading this certainly kind of... I'm not going to say that Kirsty's going to be able to change my mind. Not that I'm not open to having my mind changed. I don't want to give the impression that I just don't like it, and that's the way it is. But it certainly cast him in a different light for me. And it will be with these qualities in mind that I go into the next Fifth Doctor adventure and look for these things to see if it's something that I can latch on to and maybe, enjoy his performance a little bit more.
I say well stated. I mean, she did a very good job arguing in favor of the Fifth Doctor, and I agree to her to some extent on those. And I've said it before. The only reason I'm in the same boat as Sean is 5 was such a surprise for me when my doctor left that I think he gets a bit of a stigma with me. Not as much as I think as with Sean, but when I finally got into Davison's Doctor, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it didn't turn me off the program, and I appreciate Davison's take, and I think following somebody up like Tom Baker and the style of Doctor he was, he had to find a new niche, and his niche was I don't want to go say simplistic, but maybe dialed back. As opposed to any of the doctors ahead of him, he's a very reserved and very dialed back doctor, and that's probably the right way to go, so that you do make an impact on being different. So,
and I could see that some people's issues, the companions often do reflect the Doctor, and the fact that some of his companions were obnoxious.
So what you're saying is, because he had obnoxious companions, he's an obnoxious doctor?
A lot of people would be turned off by his doctor because of his companions.
Kind of how the stories in McCoy's era turned me off of McCoy in general. Okay. I'll buy that. I like that.
I did think she brought up a very interesting question. Well, first of all, a challenge. If anyone out there is listening who has a favorite doctor that maybe is not one of our favorites, if you would like to chime in with your 5 minutes on the floor and put something together as eloquent as Chrissy has written about why your doctor
Even
is
not as eloquent.
Either way, why your doctor deserves a little bit more of the spotlight, or maybe it's something that we're missing out on. Please write in and let us know, because we love reading this kind of stuff, and I think it's good for everybody. What?
It's not something totally... I was looking at your DVDs. I thought of something that's totally non-podcast related.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I didn't buy a DVD tonight because I couldn't find the other one that I wanted to buy with it, and then realized I've already bought the one I didn't buy with it. So there's a tangent for you.
Well, now you have to tell us what DVD you were hungry.
Yeah, what are you hunting
Electra.
for?
I sat there, had a $5 Electra in my hand. I thought, I really ought to buy this.
Is that even worth $5?
And then I said, you know what? Yeah, I liked Electra. I really did. A lot of people panicked.
I haven't seen it either.
Sorry. Anyway, I'm getting off on this tangent. I apologize, Chrissy, but I had it in my hands, and I thought, you know what will make me buy this is if I can find Daredevil, which another movie that a lot of people pan, and I didn't think was bad. I thought it was fine.
Well, the director's cut was better than the...
Regardless of which one
I enjoyed it, but I don't know anything about Daredevil.
So I thought, well, that'll be the key. I'll buy Electra. I don't know why he had to have the set, but I thought I'll buy Electra if I find Daredevil. I didn't find Daredevil. I put Electra back. And I was sitting here looking at your DVDs and realized I bought Daredevil like 2 or 3 months ago. So never mind. It was way tangenting. It was unnecessary, but I had the look, so you asked, and I had
did. You had this very panicked.
Yeah,
well, and I thought I'd done something wrong. Like what? What did I say? I can ask people for feedback. That's all right. I'm like, don't do that or something.
You guys are going to think I'm not paying attention, but I was totally zoned into that. I just did that little Stupid.
We never think you're paying
I
attention,
gotta go
Glenn.
back to Walmart tonight.
Anybody who listens to this podcast knows that, well, they're only there about the third of the time.
I almost
anyway.
picked up Ghost Rider because it was $5, and I
See, that's another one I don't think is bad.
No, it's not. It's not horrible. But that's. I mean, it's one I would own. It's one I would own.
I do own it.
And so I even
grimacing.
considered picking that up.
I didn't like
And
Ghost Rider, not even based off comic issues.
Sorry, we were getting way off topic.
Anyway, if anybody else has a fight to champion, and I don't think we have many moments because I think realistically, I think we've been very. I like to think that we've been very fair to all the doctors.
Oh, yeah,
we don't get on this program and spout hate. It's just not our thing.
We talk about how we don't like particular stories, but we've
Unicorn
always
and the Wasp.
We've always expressed our you
can say admiration.
Admiration.
It's a good word.
I couldn't get that out. Admiration of the portrayal of the Doctor in those stories, even though sometimes those stories
minimalism.
Even sometimes, if those stories have out of character moments, we still always appreciate the portrayal.
I have to be honest. When she said the first time I read this email, and she said Tom Baker comes off as arrogant and self-centered as his Doctor, and I did. The hackles went up a little bit. You know, I was like, what? No, he isn't. But then I thought about it, and I realized that she's absolutely right. His Doctor is a little arrogant and self-centered. And
he is almost the David Tennant end of run. There's a lot of similarities.
There is.
I know everything. I am all-knowing. I am awesome.
For as fallible as he is, he doesn't really get that he isn't. Yeah. Or that, whatever. So, I mean, there are certainly a lot of moments of that. But here's a question that I want to pose to you guys. Her bottom line, if I were to be the companion of any incarnation of the Doctor, I would want to be the fifth Doctor's companion because he exudes a sense of calm and control, and I get along with him personally on the best. Now, we've talked a lot about, would you be a companion? Would you jump in the TARDIS and go off and leave at a moment's notice and that kind of stuff? But which Doctor would you want to be a companion to? This isn't necessarily who's your favorite Doctor. Looking at all of the Doctors that we've had, who would you most want to pair up with and go explore the universe with? Which I think is kind of an interesting question we haven't asked.
Second Doctor.
Second Doctor?
Yep.
Why?
Just he's whimsical, he's explorative, and this sounds weird, but he's down to earth. He's the more down to earth Doctor, and he seems to be most genuinely caring about his companions. I like that about him. I think he'd be the easiest one to travel with because you'd learn and you'd explore a lot of things, but he's also just tempered enough that and cautious enough that you would never ever be in danger. I think true imminent danger. With the second Doctor, as you would with most of the Doctors who
not from the Dominators anyway.
Well, as you would with a lot of the Doctors that kind of go in, headlong into danger. So,
Keith,
my instinct and my initial reaction is 11, because 11 does have some of those qualities that 2 does, but I'm not sure exactly, honestly. I never thought about that. Which Doctor I would want to travel with?
I hadn't either until she posed the question. It's an interesting thing to think about, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to go with your favorites. I want to travel with that Doctor because he's my favorite, but I don't know. I'd have to think about it more.
I think, surprisingly, it would not be Tom Baker, if you were to ask me. Maybe it would be easy of me to say Paul McGann's Doctor. I think the 8th Doctor has a lot of that fun. I think the 8th Doctor and I would sync up on that kind of almost dry, sarcastic humor that he brings to a lot of the situations. I think there's a lot of, especially in the audio adventures, there's so many little moments where he'll give just a line or something, and it's just absolutely hysterical to me to listen to this guy and some of the things that he comes up with. So I think he would be a lot of fun to travel around. And, his console room certainly wouldn't hurt any. But
a year ago, or even more than a year ago, I would have said Eccleston. Because I was kind of in a dark place more than a year ago.
Yeah.
So, now where I'm at now, I don't know.
You know who'd be a real close runner-up? Actually, a twofer, really. Just because I love Sylvester McCoy so much, I think his Doctor would be a lot of fun to hang out with, too. But quite honestly, number 3.
Yeah,
I think Pertwee would be a lot of fun to hang out with
I was
in the
thinking of
TARDIS.
that too, but that's also an easy go-to for me because he's my favorite classic series companion or Doctor. So
I don't know. Interesting stuff, Chrissy. And again, if anybody wants to chime in with who would they travel with, let us know.
That'd be a great bit of feedback.
All right. Well, that wraps up our feedback for this week. Glenn's not paying attention again, so I'm stretching for time.
News is next.
News is next.
And we got a lot of news this week. First up is the introduction of the new companion, Jenna Louise. We don't know anything about who her character is going to be, just that this is the actress who's going to play her. What was your guys' initial reaction?
I don't know that I really had much of a reaction. To me, it was just a, oh, hey, now we know who the new companion is. I mean, I can't get excited over it other than the fact that it's more evidence that, there's new Doctor Who coming. But I'm with Chrissy on this one. I think a lot of people, I didn't see as much spouting over people saying, well, they didn't like her. But I saw a few.
I was on Twitter pretty heavily.
And my first reaction was, well, we don't know who she is, what her character is going to be, or anything, so why snap to judgment? So I kind of thought the same thing, and I think she's a stunningly attractive woman, which we seem to do frequently. We put attractive females in Doctor Who.
Can't imagine why.
But I don't know. I think the thing I was most encouraged, what excited me the most, and I was most encouraged by, was I watched the interview with her when she was on BBC News. And the thing I was most encouraged about was she said that her and Matt had so much fun in her audition, and that their timing was on and they felt really good together. I was encouraged by that, and then following that up, I saw Stephen Moffat, his tweet stream when he was talking about how a lot of times they'd bring actresses in to read with Matt in the auditions, and Matt's a very difficult actor to keep up with, and he said that at one point, I mean, it was Matt Smith that said this.
No,
anyway,
it was
Moffat. Okay.
It was Moffat.
But at one point, Matt was having to keep up with her, so that's encouraging to me.
I think that
sounds
great.
like they're going to have a great chemistry and great pacing as far as this new series goes.
When I had seen the announcement on Twitter that tomorrow they were going to say who the companion was, I had seen
you mean the day that
the day before.
I was going tomorrow. Wait, we know
the day before I had seen that they were going to announce this, and I was kind of keeping an eye on Twitter, and then I saw a release from the Sun, and some of you might have seen me tweet about this, and I was like, I don't trust the Sun.
Why would you?
Granted, they ended up being right, and I ended up being like, My initial reaction, because it was the Sun, was I don't want this person as a companion because I don't trust the Sun. Whoever they're saying is going to be someone under their agenda. But then once they announced it, that it was actually her, I was completely fine with it. And
I wonder if Moffat had an absolute spoiler meltdown that the Sun broke that the day before.
And somebody else on Twitter said they had seen other reports, but that was the only article I could find was on the Sun. But, yeah, we don't know who she's going to be. We don't know any situation around her. Yeah, it's stereotypical that it's an attractive young lady. How is that any different than what we've always had?
Yeah. I think it's interesting. The backlash has certainly been more from the, and I have to tread carefully here because I certainly don't want to offend anybody, except, quite honestly, there is one group of people that I wouldn't mind offending, and those are the people who
don't like anything.
Who don't like anything.
Yeah.
Matt Smith's not David Tennant. Stephen Moffat's no Russell T. Davies. The new show isn't as good as the old show. And I really almost want to scream at these people, stop watching.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I don't want to count you among the legions of Whovian faithful who enjoy the show. Because you guys do nothing but complain.
You don't enjoy the show, obviously. You just keep watching out of habit.
These are the people that seem to be complaining the most. Well, she's no Amy. Well, of course not. She's not supposed to be.
I have a feeling that she's going to have Martha syndrome. unless they do really amazing things with her character and really off-the-wall things and really unique things with her character, she's going to have Martha syndrome.
Or people just aren't going to like her just because she's not Rose.
She's not Amy.
Yeah.
They're not going to like her. They're used to seeing the 11th Doctor. Good job there.
Yeah, moving that right underneath the mic. That was a good idea.
They're used to seeing the 11th Doctor with Amy. And I'm sure there were people that didn't like Rory when he was first introduced. Because it's supposed to be the Doctor and Amy. And it's still going to be that stigma going into her. And I haven't been shy about how much I enjoy Martha about on this podcast. So I have a feeling in most of the fan base they're going to have that it's going to be the Martha syndrome, especially if it's going to be as traumatic and heartbreaking as they're making it out to be.
Yeah, I mean, she certainly. I think part of what is maybe stemming the flow of bad will is the idea that she's not who these people would have chosen as a companion. And we've talked a lot about, we'd like to see somebody older, we'd like to see maybe a kid, we'd like to see this, we'd like to see that. We're all, I think, fans of male companions and mixing it up a little bit and doing something different. But obviously, there's a certain... When you cast a beautiful young woman, there's a certain ratings boost that goes along with that when this person's automatically associated with the show. It also fits right in line with the history. I mean, the Doctor's always had a beautiful woman on his arm. That's just kind of how it works. And so looking at the pictures of her, which I thought was very interesting when I did my Google search to put up the article on the website, there were pictures of her that she looks, I don't want to say plain, but she looks very girl next door almost. She's got a very wholesome
I would agree.
Look. And then there's other pictures where she is a...
Although I've always kind of thought Rose was kind of the same way.
Yeah, in a way. But then there are other pictures of her where she looks like a complete, sex symbol. So I really kind of get the impression it could go either way. And now they've released this first, quote-unquote, official picture of her in front of the TARDIS. So it's the first BBC-sanctioned, image. Although, obviously, we don't think that's an actual costume, because the pictures we had of Matt Smith standing in front of the TARDIS when he was first cast were not costume-related at all.
He looked more 10th Doctor than he did.
Yeah.
Anything.
So, the weird sweater that she had on, very Sylvester McCoy reminiscent, actually.
True.
May or may not be part of the costume or anything. In a way, I hope it is. Somebody tweeted out that they kind of hope that they went with the as Chrissy and I have joked many times, the sexy librarian look. The sweater and glasses. Make her a Velma type character from Scooby-Doo, and I'd be fine with that. So I don't know what everybody's up in arms about.
What do you guys hope they do with her? Any hopes?
I hope that she compliments Matt. As long as Matt is the Doctor, I hope that she compliments him. I hope that she gets into it, and I hope she has fun. That to me is the biggest key. If the companions are having fun, exploring the universe or doing whatever they're doing, then that is a big deal. And there have been plenty of companions that didn't look like they were having fun on the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And it's kind of became a, why are you still here?
My contract hasn't run out.
Yeah, well,
Glenn, what do you hope they do with her character?
I hope they do a good job, and I hope they just stay with the key writing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you bring in there, as long as they're a competent actor or actress, and as long as they've got great writing, which they've always had. I think that it's in good hands with the showrunner. It's in good hands with Matt Smith, and any companion can come in there, and I think she'll do a fantastic job with the role. Especially, like I said, I'm so encouraged. I don't know what I hope they do. I mean, we had talked about wanting to...
What would you like to see them do?
I don't...
I know you. Well, let's get to the meat of the issue. We know that you would like to see a non-contemporary.
I would
companion.
like to see a non-20th or 21st century companion.
I don't know that they'll do that.
I don't know if they will either.
We talked a little bit.
Or
now
even,
I see what you're fishing
alien.
for. You had said maybe if it's Earth not being 20th century or 21st century specific. I would rather see an off-world companion again.
Off-world
I don't think it's going to happen.
Non-modern companion.
Yeah, I would rather see off-world than non-modern. I mean, we've had Jamie, we've had Victoria, we've had.
But if you look in the scope
Zoe.
of new series,
All of the companions of
no,
contemporary.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and there's a
New
reason for
series.
that. And I
Well,
think
yeah.
that'll continue because of that reason. But I'd like to see it. I'd like to see Offworld. I'd like to see from somewhere else. Maybe another American. No.
Knock, 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 Perry. Knock, 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 Perry.
anything else about?
There's a T-shirt idea. How come nobody's done that one
There
yet?
you go. No, I don't have anything else to say. I think we're just we're in a holding pattern right now. We're just going to have to wait until the series returns in the
it'll be
fall.
hard-
This just
Breaking.
in. Doctor Who is still not on.
You got a page now that really says that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Next time, I'm actually going to write it.
I tore this off the teletype machine earlier tonight, which I purchased this weekend for tonight.
Just for tonight.
I also wrote and created a search algorithm for when Doctor Who will air,
That's helpful.
and it came back and said, "Not yet."
You'll be first to know.
Actually, I was telling Glenn, and this is something that's kind of falling in within that. One of the things that they mentioned during this whole press conference was that Jenna will be introduced in episode 6, which is the Christmas special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, here's where a little math play comes involved with this. If we work under the assumption that there's no break, and I think there will be, but let's work under the assumption that there isn't, the Christmas episode will air week of Christmas.
Yes.
Obviously. Yes. So if there's no break in the action, if you count back 5 weeks, we have a no later than start date.
True.
Did you count back?
It's sometime in November.
Yeah,
I didn't
November is
actually do
what
the
you
math.
said, yeah.
Are you looking?
No, but
No.
Sometime in November. So we know that Doctor Who will be on no later than November. Now, they could come on a lot sooner.
yes.
Because they could do the first 5 episodes and then have a 2-month
I think
break.
we'll have it. I don't know that it'll be 2 months, but I think it'll be about a month break.
It could be about a month break.
On both sides, maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
1 month on one side, 1
Yeah,
month.
I agree. I think there will be a break. But if there isn't, we know that the longest we'll have to hold out for and wait is November.
Yeah. No,
And that gave me a great deal of hope when they let that slip. Because I was like, aha, I figured you out. I've got a date now. So, and then 8 episodes next year was the other part of that.
Yep.
So,
Right.
did we want to talk any about the spoilerish items that were accompanying that
Well,
email?
some of that
with-
was talked about at the official
Convention. Yeah.
convention.
Okay.
So let's.
So we want to move into that?
Let's
Yeah,
just
let's
move
talk a little
into
bit
that.
about it. Warning, there may be some spoilerific material coming here, so bear with us for just a few minutes.
We initially had
Earmuffs.
a correspondent that was going to send in.
Yeah, let's
feedback.
talk a little bit about Phil Malkin, who was going to be our eyes and ears on the ground there in Cardiff. Unfortunately, I got an email back from him this week. He was excited to go. I emailed him earlier in the week, and he was excited to go. We told him some of the things we'd like to see, if he could try to get for us, and if at the very least get us a report. Unfortunately, he wrote back another email about 2 hours after I had talked to him in an email. He found that he and his wife found out that her mother had passed, and so obviously they weren't able to attend. And so our thoughts go out to he and his wife and their family, and our condolences to you on your loss. And
Very much so,
we
Phil. We're
completely
very sorry to hear that.
understand. I
Yeah.
mean, there are things in life that are much more important than Doctor Who, and certainly priorities are taken, and we absolutely understand, and I'm sure our listeners send their thoughts and condolences out to you as well, Phil. And we certainly want to thank you so much for stepping up to bat and offering to do this for us, even though it didn't work out the way that it could have. But so Phil, unfortunately, won't be able to file a report. We do want to note, though, if there are listeners out there that were able to attend or have some information on this, and you'd like to send in some feedback, let us know, and
send it on in.
Put
We'd
on.
love to hear it.
Absolutely. What we
Well-
do know about the official con, however,
There were some tidbits talked about in one of the panels. Arthur Darvill revealed that he was one of the first casts to work out that River was their daughter.
Really?
Yeah. And
Go Rory!
even though Alex Kingston had been sworn to secrecy, he asked her about it, and she looked into his eyes and said, "Hello, Dad." So he confirmed it for him.
Better not let Steven know that.
I think he was there when they were.
He was at the panel for
He
that,
was at the
so-
panel when they talked about it.
This was the four of them on stage, so
That's a good way to get yourself fired.
Yeah.
Right there.
I don't know, Rory. Arthur wasn't sworn to secrecy, and they don't have to bring Alex back, so she was probably pretty much safe now. He can reveal that after that.
Stephen Moffat talked about returning monsters, and he pointed out again that the Daleks must be the most easily thwarted Doctor Who villains ever.
Now, didn't we hear a rumor that they were in fact coming back this season?
In the companion announcement, there was the reveal that they would be back in episode 3.
In episode 3 of the coming season.
Yes.
We don't know in what context
In what
or
capacity,
anything,
yep.
but
Oh, I'm ready for him to come back.
I'm not.
They're Daleks. You got to be in Doctor Who.
Name
Sorry.
one third season. Name one third episode slotted Dalek episode of the new season that's been any good.
There's only been one that's
There've
been
been
slotted.
2
in the third.
In the third. Oh, you're right. The other one was 4th.
Yeah, it was 4.
All right. So name one that's been
Dalek.
good. That was 5.
Oh, that was 5.
well, you could we
Was
could
there
go
one that
first
was
half.
in the third? I mean, the only one I could think of was the
Victory,
Victory,
of
and
the
that's the
Daleks,
only one that
and
was
it
the
wasn't
third.
very good.
Well, yeah, that doesn't set much up for a precedent.
It's too early in the season. Unless it's the season opener, it's too early in the season.
I say
for
get
a
him in
Dalek
there,
story.
get him out of the way.
Also,
I'm ready for the Daleks to come back.
this was announced in
I love Barnaby Edwards. I love Nick Briggs.
I'm ready for the
I don't know.
Zygons too.
Well, yeah.
that hasn't been confirmed. Also announced in the companion introduction and confirmed again during the convention, the Weeping Angels are coming back for episode 5, which
Is Rory and Amy's departure?
yes, and apparently that departure is heartbreaking, and anybody who's read it has cried during it. But that episode will apparently take place in New York. And it will actually be filmed on location in New York.
Oh wow, cool.
New York, you almost said.
New York. New York. Of course, whenever anybody asks Stephen Moffat about future episodes, his answer was, "I'm not telling you." A nice little nugget that happened was a fan offered a Jelly Baby to the panel, and in return got a Jamie Dodger from Matt Smith. And apparently he was handing those out
That's
to
fantastic.
people throughout the entire thing.
That's fun.
Let's talk a little bit about Jamie Dodgers.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, not so much.
And Arthur,
I didn't think they were horrible, but
the last bit of
They were horrible.
the last bit of good nuggets that I have been able to dredge up was that Arthur was asked about the amount of times he had to play a death scene, and then Steven said, "You haven't seen nothing yet," ominously. So
I wonder if anybody just happened to ask if there was a reason for that.
Rory's going to bite it. Amy's going to blame the doctor. Sorry, I spoiled it for you.
I'm sorry. I'm on the fence of believing it's going to be the other direction.
Yeah, I don't think
It's
so.
going to be flip flopped. I think
I don't
Amy's
think
going to
so.
die,
I don't think so.
and
Don't think so.
Does anybody really have a problem with that?
I also called River as their daughter long before.
I just
I got a pretty good
I just
record.
have a hard time believing that Amy, even with as much as she's grown in Series 6, would blame the Doctor for Rory's death and stop traveling with him.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's flipped.
We'll see.
We will see. I mean, we're just absolutely speculating. And then also there was a fan asked the panel if there would ever be a female doctor, and Stephen pointed out it's entirely possible, and asked for a show of hands. About 50% put their hands up, and then he asked how many would switch off the show if it was a female doctor, and about 20 to 30% put their hands up.
I wish now that I could have found it. There was a tweet that was sent earlier, and I didn't realize that it was in conjunction with that question. I just know that it's something that's been circulating and was talked about. So I'd really like to give credit to this person. I saw it as a retweet. But the comment that was made was a show that deals about traveling through time and space and the wonder of that. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote. The wonder of being able to travel through time and space has no room for sexist bigotry.
I agree.
And quite honestly, that comment summed up everything that I feel about this. Whether you personally want a female doctor or not, whether you're in favor of the idea or opposed to it, there's no reason to not accept it and continue to watch the show if it were to happen. And it bothers me that there are people that are out there that are that close-minded that call themselves fans that would stop watching just because, well, it's a woman now. Yeah. That it just absolutely infuriates me that people can be that bluntly stupid.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I completely agree.
I concur.
I'll get off my soapbox now. I'm getting very riled up actually just thinking about this. So
on the happy news.
Let's go to that.
The Huffington Post did an interview. Apparently, they had a correspondent there and did an interview with Amy and with Karen and Matt, and they talked a little bit about Karen's departure. But then they asked Matt if he was staying on, and he said, "Yeah." And then they asked, "Are you staying on post next year?" And
please tell me you're not going to bring this up again.
This is the direct quote that he gave them. "Well, I mean, look, we've got the 50th anniversary coming up. There's another Christmas special to shoot. We've got another season with our new companion coming in. There's a lot to be getting on with before I leave. So absolutely, I'm here for the foreseeable future."
There's no encouragement in that. He said nothing different than he said before. I'm going to say it again. He's on for this entire next season. He's got a role to play in the 50th anniversary, and from then on,
still the foreseeable future.
Exactly. Tomorrow is the foreseeable future.
Well, I mean, the way
what I'm saying is everybody keeps reporting this crap and trying to get him to lock down on saying, "Yeah, I'm done after this season." Here's what you can gather from everything that he has surmised. He
hasn't
back
decided
for
when
season
he's
7. He has something to do with the 50th anniversary year, and beyond that, there's nothing to say. And the reason there's nothing to say is because he's ready to be done with it if he gets something else coming along. I'm telling you, he has said the exact same thing every time he said it. We can't keep gleaming to this hope that he's going to be there in Series 8. And quite honestly, based on the fact that he keeps giving the same stock answer every time, he's going to be gone in Series 8. I'm sorry, Keith. That's the reality.
I don't know. The way he phrases this is the 50th anniversary. He's not counting Series 7.
You're as hopeful as every one of those other wandering Matt Smith
listen to what he says,
that want
though.
him to be around.
Listen to what he says, though. I've never heard him go into this detail of what's coming up.
No, he has. He has said, "Yeah, well, there's." In fact, he said it exactly that way. Well, there is the 50th anniversary, and he said it exactly the same way.
There's the Christmas special to shoot.
Yes,
after the
which
50th
is
anniversary,
in the 50th year. Yes, absolutely. But there's also non-confirmation that Series 8 is going to even happen that year.
And then he says, "We've got another season with our new companion coming in."
Right. That the other. And he's talking about the split season. I'm sure.
I don't think he is.
Could be.
I mean. I think it would have said we've got half a season.
They're not talking about the replacement for Jenna Louise at this point.
Right. Exactly.
Well, no, Jenna Louise is going to bridge the gap.
That's who he's referring to.
That's who he's referring to, the season with the new companion.
Yes.
But that's only half a season.
No.
I would think he would have said half a season.
That will be the full season after...
This
Okay,
this is getting real old because we just keep going on circles on this thing, and I get so mad. I'm not upset with Keith because
I'm upset with Keith.
No, I'm not because it's these stupid reporters and media
totally
outlets
is.
that are trying to lock him down, and they give people like Keith hope that he's going to be around longer. And I'm getting sick and tired of this. When he says, "Yeah, I'm back for Series 8," then I'll say, "Hey, look at that, Matt Smith's sticking around." He has never said that.
And then you'll say, I was wrong.
I will say that one. I'll be
that is
gladly
the
say
key.
it's
You're
wrong because I
right.
want
My
Matt
anger
Smith
is
to
misdirected.
stay.
I'm not mad at Keith. I'm mad at all of the reporters who keep dragging this story out and giving simple-minded folk like Keith hope.
I am not simple-minded.
He's like a child. He's going to latch onto that
I didn't
and
even
just
go
go
that
with
far.
it.
I'm not talking to you the rest of the podcast.
Oh, it's usually me he's mad at.
Well, I got my official Traveling the Vortex stick in the mail, and I thought I'd poke somebody else with it this week. You know I'm kidding.
Keith,
Don't
thank
look
you
hurt.
for gleaming that. Thank you for grabbing the nuggets of that information so that we could report on that. It was very helpful. So we sure appreciate that. And there is a lot of stuff.
There's a whole lot more.
There's a lot of stuff
There's a
out there.
plethora of
There's
stuff.
a lot of stuff out there about. And as we that's just it. This thing just wrapped up today.
Yeah.
We're absorbing a lot of this information ourselves,
And
I
we
think
didn't
as we-
have time to absorb any of it yesterday.
Right, and I think that we'll relay whatever nuggets we glean from it this week. Kind of talk a little bit about over the following weeks as well, because a lot came out at this convention, and it's fantastic. They
It
were
sounds
able
like
to
it
do
was a huge success.
Yeah,
It was sold
absolutely.
out for both days.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but we'll as we go along and gain more information and hear from others, then we'll certainly pass more information on about the big convention.
Have you seen these photos from the TARDIS?
I did. I saw those.
These people are touching the
I saw
console.
those Saturday. I know. How cool is that, huh?
It's pretty cool.
You don't even get to do that in the experience.
No, yeah. Yeah, the console and experience isn't even the actual console.
Well, I'm sure, I don't
Is
think
this
that
the actual
either.
console?
And I think that's the
Is
actual
it?
console.
I thought that was
Yeah,
just
they
the
set it up
experience
for
console.
that. No, that's it. They set it up for that.
Well, they relocated the entire
I
experience.
know. I'm just kidding.
I hate all you guys.
Anyway, we had a little convention.
just for the
we
record.
had a little convention here.
It wasn't even
close
little.
to us.
It was a big convention.
Well,
big
little in the
convention.
terms of Doctor Who, but big as in the
a
terms of science
convention.
fiction.
Yeah, it was a. When we talked about last year how big Planet Comicon was, how many people showed up.
I say it easily doubled this year.
I would agree.
Yeah.
It was. I haven't seen any official numbers, but I would say at least 1,000
Oh yeah, easily. Oh yeah.
at one point.
No,
I'm sure there was
that,
2,000
that day we
throughout
were
the
there.
entire
I'm
day.
certain that there
Or
was.
the 2 days.
Yeah.
It felt very much in the neighborhood. Having just come from Galley, where they had 3,000 attendees, it felt very much like it was in the 20 to 2,500 range.
Yeah, I
Easily.
would guess.
see that.
And again, we were only there Saturday, so I don't know what their total
And
number
Saturday's
wound up
always
being.
the bigger day.
Yeah, Saturday's
Right.
the bigger day.
Right.
So I don't know what their big day wound up being, but yeah, a lot of people. And I mean, we talk. Quite honestly, if it continues at this rate,
They're going to need a new venue.
Chris needs a new venue next year. I mean, realistically, because this was the first year that we'd taken up. When I say we, that they had taken up the entire floor of that convention hall, and had spilled out into that one corridor, and had that separate ballroom, and had the annex where the costume contest was, the atrium.
Yeah.
Then all of that and the lobby was dedicated to Planet Comicon
Yep.
this year, and it was just huge.
Which they did similar this year. Is there was the main conference area where the vendors were, and the artists and the autographs.
The
Well,
dealer's
but
room.
that was
The
only
dealer's room.
2/3 being used last year too.
Yeah.
Until they moved the line for Bullock around behind the curtain.
But this year was fully being used.
Sorry,
Yeah, I stood in that line too.
you got moved. I didn't get moved.
It was still
No, it was already behind the curtain when I got in there.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
what it was.
No, I didn't get-
you went after they moved the line
Yeah, I went
behind
after they
Keith
moved
and
the
I
line.
practically, and when we like the.
behind you because I didn't get an autograph. I was
Well,
just,
that's right.
I was
you
just
were
hanging
with
out
me.
with
that's
you.
right. You were with me. Well, it was like I want to say like 3 or 4 people behind us, and they cut the line and
Yeah.
moved it, and
Yeah.
then everybody was like, "What? We're not going to get a go." No,
And
we're
they
just moving.
probably thought I was part of that line.
That's all right. One person got to come sooner because you didn't stay for an autograph. So. Well, that was last year. Let's talk about this year.
The entire dealer's room was full.
Yep. They filled the entire hall.
And if you ask me, the autographs lines were in the right spot this year. The artists were in the right spot this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it still was laid out similar, but they had a lot more room in front of the stars. And they were able to queue up better.
The one, two exceptions
Billy's
to
was
that
the exception,
was
yeah.
Billy D. Williams, and later in the afternoon, Edward James Olmos. They had another person out
did
there
that
with a
happen?
pole.
Yeah. Okay. I wondered about
and that bogged that area down a
After
little
his
bit.
panel.
Right.
But other than that, I agree with you. I think the layout was much better this year.
And none of the vendors spilled out of that hallway either. I mean, there was the gaming area, and the only quote-unquote vendor, which was kind of nice to not have it in the main vendor area, was the food.
Yes, I would agree. Except for
that made so much
food,
sense.
The
though.
food was in the wrong spot in the sense that the line kept forming there and cutting that hall off. So you had to cut through that line every time to.
And then the ATM line would wrap around back to it too.
Yeah, that ATM line. I can't believe that ATM line was so long every day. I'm like, every hour. Every time I walked by there, I had to walk around this stupid ATM.
Let me reiterate a piece of Gallifrey, a lesson learned for those of you that are attending any convention. Bring cash.
Yes.
Stop at the bank before you get to the thing. Yes, there will be an ATM at wherever convention you're at.
Last year, I didn't bring cash.
And you're going to pay an exorbitant amount of money to get cash out of that ATM.
Yes.
But before you pay an exorbitant amount of money to get cash, you're going to stand in a very long line.
Yes.
And if you're lucky, you'll pay that fee, a lot of money, and then be able to get money.
Yes.
They did run out. The ATM ran out of cash at some point in time. Now, they had to refill it because I saw people back in line using it later that afternoon. But just do yourself a favor. You stand in line for a lot of things at conventions. Don't let the ATM machine be one. ATM machine. I just said that, didn't I?
It's ATM.
I'm correcting myself. I just don't stand in line at the ATM.
You just said machine twice if you said ATM machine.
I did. I didn't mean to. Don't let that be one of the things you stand in line for, because yikes.
Yeah.
But
however, standing in line, we did do in abundance to get Billy D. Williams.
Just Billy D, though. That was the only line I stood in.
Yeah.
Except for to get food earlier, but that was only like 4 people.
I stood in 4 people for
Aaron
Gray, thank you. Well, Gil didn't have a line. Aaron Gray had a line, and we were standing there for Aaron Gray.
Well, because she's got twice as many fans because there is silver spoons as well.
Well, yeah.
But he was an Ewok.
He was in Earth Force.
No, not Gil.
No, Gil is Buck.
Yeah,
you're thinking
I
of
was
Tweaky.
thinking
You were thinking of Tweaky.
Yeah.
Gil Gerard was in Earth Force, man. And I brought that up to him, and I said, I kind of missed that show. He says, it's set for the same fate as the other show that I was in, and it got blocked by the one. They had this thing, and it was on, and the network changed executives, and the old executive liked it, the new executive didn't, and axed it.
Oh.
And then he went on to this new show under a different network, and they changed executive, and the same guy came on board that network and didn't like that show and axed it. I was like, he's just got it out for you. He says, it was the same executive producer of both shows. I think so.
That guy must have gone on to be on Fox.
Yeah,
Now the president of Fox.
he's now cut his teeth. Fox went, yes, we'd love to hire you to kill things. Okay, so we had Billy D. Williams, who of course Lando Calrissian. That's Empire Strikes Back, and apparently somebody had asked him in one of the in his panel, which we did not get to attend because we were standing in line already for the autographs.
We didn't get to attend any of the major panels.
Now, I didn't even see everything in the dealer's room. There
Really?
was so much stuff. I mean,
Wow.
I think
Caitlin and I
didn't
finally
go-
walked through.
I
and
didn't
saw
go into
everything.
every booth of the dealer's room, but I think I did see it.
I'll admit that I was fairly focused this year. I cruised past most of the artists with Mel because she was looking for specific things that she wanted, and then I hit a lot of the comic vendors looking for specific graphic novels and hoping to find things. So there was a lot of vendors in there that I didn't even see just because I was spending most of my time doing other things. But so we had Billy D. Williams, and one of the guys in his panel asked him, so what would you most like to be known for? And he replied, Colt 45. And we laughed about this, but then we got up to the booth where he had his photos and stuff, and there was this thing. For $100, you could get Billy D. Williams to call and record your answering machine message.
Yeah.
And you could get 3 different scripts, and one of them is, Hi, this is Billy D. Williams. Me and Glenn are out enjoying a nice cold Colt 45. Leave a message and we'll get back to you. And we just laughed about it. And he was the nicest guy. I mean, he was very. I mean,
which that is also why you won't hear a bumper from Billy D. Williams.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
well,
don't want to
we
fork
saw
over
that-
twice as much as Eric Roberts.
We saw that and thought, "Yep, nope, he's going to ask for money."
I still think we should have had him record the Traveling the Vortex Google voicemail.
Sean goes, "Hey, you guys want to split this?"
That would have got people to call it. We'd have been on the podcast tonight going, dude, you need to call our voicemail. Just call it. Don't even leave us voicemail. Just call the number. People would have done it. But so he was very cool, and he very much is really that persona, that
Yeah,
very
he really
suave
is.
He is.
cigar and beer. That's
Well,
kind of
the
his.
entire time we were in line, at least from when we could see him, and got up to him, he had sunglasses on the
He did.
entire time.
Yeah.
Entire time.
And like this ascot scarf thing, and yeah.
He was cool. He
He
was
was-
very. He
he
was
was
very.
very
He
cool.
was very smooth. Billy D is cool.
I shook his hand. I asked him if I could shake his hand. He said yes. That was very cool. He was very nice. He wasn't personalizing the photos, though. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did
He
notice
just
that.
signed his
He was
name
just
and go
signing-
on.
well,
It was,
but as many
it's kind
as
of a
he had
assembly
to
line
do.
going there, yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame him for that.
And
Also,
then, as Sean said, the guy that was his handler was asking each person, "Would you like a certificate of authenticity?" And Sean says, "You know what? They're offering certificates of authenticity, but I want to watch him sign the thing, so I know it's his signature."
I don't need a sticker on it that says this is an authentic Billy D. Williams signature.
Although-
I saw him do it.
Although, however, because he didn't personalize any
That
of
was the
them,
point that I made. Is now you can sell it if you bought that certificate of authenticity, you can sell it on eBay and get money for it that way.
Have you seen the walls of my apartment?
he's not going to sell any of these.
Somebody asked me, what do you want for your birthday? I said more walls.
Yeah,
Which we had a great conversation with Caitlin about that.
Caitlin, you can't. There's no wall store. I don't think that would work. Of course, then she told you you'd have to go to Walmart.
She did. She was such a... You'd have to buy a new house to get more walls. You don't think I could just go to the wall store? There's no such thing as a wall store. You don't think so? Well, maybe Walmart. Can't argue with that. I just...
She's a clever little girl.
Well, and then after Billy D, you and I went and got Jake Lloyd's autograph.
We did. Actually, I went over there because I pondered it. I thought,
Well,
do I really want Jake
in
Lloyd?
line?
I don't know. I mean, I like the kid.
We had
I
initially
liked he was in
heard
it.
that Billy D's autograph was $10 more than it actually was.
Yeah, it ended up only being 40.
Which...
I just
yeah,
can't believe
Billy
I'm
D,
paying
I
for
love you,
people's
but
names.
40's kind of the 40 is my official cap.
That
at
was
this
it.
point.
And
Yeah,
at that
and
point, when I
it's-
found
you'd
that
have to
out,
be
I was
really-
only going to pay that, and that was going to be my only autograph.
I wish Edward James Olmos would have been lower. I would have
Well,
gotten
he
it.
was 50, is what
He
we were
was
still
50,
hearing.
yeah. I went over and checked the sign.
And it said 50.
It was 50.
Yeah.
Edward, I would have loved to have come up and shaken your hand and thank you for, because I always thank people for coming to conventions. That's just a big
Blake
deal.
watched part of his, like, when he was signing people's autographs, and he was very personable.
He's very personal, very friendly. I mean, he was sitting right next to
He was
Aaron
signing.
Gray.
He
So,
was
I mean,
hugging people, taking pictures
yeah,
with
he'd get up
them.
and do,
and-
he was a
I
great
mean,
guest.
he walked through the convention to get to the panel, as opposed to Billy D, who went around.
But at the same time, $50
$50? No.
it's,
Yeah.
you just priced yourself out of my autograph
You were
range.
just
That's
on
what happened to
Dexter,
me,
but
yeah.
that's still not. Yeah.
But anyway, so we went over to Jake, and I was like, it's Star Wars. And Sean made the point. He said, you know what? You're probably not going to get another chance. You should do it because I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm on that autograph hunt.
Sarah
but
made that point
I didn't
to me,
have
too.
to pay. I didn't have to pay that much as I thought for Billy. So I thought, okay. But the thing is, when we walked up there, his handler started talking to Caitlin about her costume while he was still signing with somebody else. And I was picking the photo out, and I said, "This one's really cool." And Caitlin, I said, "No," I said, "We just saw him in Phantom Menace because we just saw it in 3D." And she's seen the movies before, but she doesn't remember them because she was a lot younger. Now she's recognizing me. And I said, "That's who this is. He played Anakin in this, well, it's been 15 years now, 10 years now, 99, so 13 years ago."
13 years ago.
And he's considerably older. So this is who this is. And she goes, "Oh yeah." And and as we moved the picture over, I said, "Yeah, this is Anakin. This is who." And she, she was starting to connect it. And then he goes, "Do you want me to sign this to you?" And I said, "Yeah, sign that to her." And I thought, this is then she's starting to get the stars in her eyes at that point. I can tell that it's sinking in who this is and what's going on here. And she's like, and he's like, okay. And so he signs it out and he writes to Caitlin, "Are you an angel?" Which is the thing that he says to Padme in the movie. And then he signs it. And she was like, wow. And then she's got really big eyes, and he gives it to her. And we're walking away, and of course, Sarah, your fiance, comes up to her and says, "You really just went up there so that you could try to get his phone number, didn't you?" And Caitlin goes, "Yeah."
Well, and you guys posed for a picture.
We did.
Him.
We posed with a picture that you guys fortunately took for us because we didn't get one with our camera. But yeah, and so that was the thing. Is when I got home, we were showing the pictures to Mom, and I went through and I said, "What happened to our picture with Jake Lloyd? I know we stood and posed for a picture." We made it home with the camera, even though I left it twice to several places, and Sean had to rescue it once, and Keith and Sarah had to rescue
Billy D
it once.
almost went home with Glenn's camera.
And so then I was like, "Where's this?" Well, when it showed up on Facebook tonight and I showed it to her, she went back into that whole, she was, okay, I'm going to tell on her. She was kissing my iPad. I mean, she was like, "Oh,
Really?
Jake, what?" Yeah. So she's totally smitten with Jake Lloyd. So I was totally glad that
we were
got
talking about it on the ride back, and we were like, he has a fan for life.
She was so proud of that photo because she wasn't. She typically isn't. She's not an autograph hunter, and so when he said, "You want me to sign that to you?" I thought, "Yeah, do that. That's awesome." Because she has one from the gal that voices Ahsoka Tano in the Clone Wars, which she got 2 years ago, and that one wasn't quite. I mean, she connected that one because she'd watched the Clone Wars and she knew who that was and whatnot. But this one was the first one.
It's still a bit of a step because it's the voice instead of the face.
Instead of the face, and this is the actual. Well, although he's
older,
13 years older
but you
now.
can still see him.
But boy, she thinks
there.
he's a cute guy now too. So anyway,
So just to clarify, you didn't get an Anakin autograph.
no, I didn't get it. But it will be hanging next to Billy D on our wall with Caitlin's signature, or with Caitlin, to Caitlin on it. So we still have the autograph. It just happens to be Caitlin, which to me now is even more special because it's something we share together.
Yeah, I can see
She's got Anakin, who she absolutely loved in the movie. I've got Billy D, I still think the guy's awesome, even though he was charging an absorbent amount of money.
And he was really nice.
He was nice. He was a great guy. He was fantastic. He let me shake his hand.
I was expecting it to be 50, and so I had 50 ready, and I was fumbling to get extra money or less, but I had like $3 for the slip protector, and Sarah had gotten face paint.
Right.
And he was talking to Sarah about her face paint while
cool.
I was doing that.
Yeah.
So that was
Very
really cool.
Is somebody here at the convention doing the face art? That's very pretty. he was engaging.
I didn't hear what he said, but and then
mine was all a blur because I went into. I don't usually do this when I go to these guys, but this was one of the.
This is one of those names.
This is one of the big four.
Shall we do it?
No, listen. What are we doing?
Billy D. Billy D.
Okay. Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher. That's the big three. And then just slightly below that's Billy D. and Billy D's at this convention. That was my big draw, and that was my goal, and that's what we went for. And I literally walked up there, and I was
regardless,
but I think I barely remember the things I said to him. I said, "You're awesome in everything that I've seen you in." I told him that. I remember that. I said, "Yeah, you're really incredible, very talented. Thank you, so much." That was all I remember until I said, after he was done signing, I said, "Can I shake your hand?" And he says, "Yeah, absolutely." And he hands his hand out, and then we shake and everything. And so I go back to my pictures, and I'm looking because I've charged Keith with taking pictures. And I think
Sarah
you
was
picked it
taking
up.
pictures.
Or was it
not
Sarah?
me.
Okay, well,
because I was
somebody
getting
had my
autograph.
camera taking pictures, and there's a picture of him signing my thing.
No, you gave me your camera,
and I went, "Cool."
And she had hers.
That's awesome. And then there's another picture that I think Sean grabbed and snapped. Is that the one that was the
where it's mostly counter?
Yeah, it's counter.
Well, it's
and then
because
there's
you
Billy.
had walked off and he had walked off, and I looked down after talking with my guy about I don't need the protector or the certificate of authenticity. Thank you anyway. And I looked down and there's this blue camera on the counter. I'm like, that's Glenn's.
So Keith left my camera.
Why is Glenn's camera on the counter?
I had set it down
and
so
I
you
looked
could
up
pick
and
it up.
I thought, well, maybe because I know they've kind of got that.
I was
weird...
still in Billy Day Hayes. I was like, "Oh my
trying
god,
to
I just
figure out
shaked money."
Well, then I kind of got that. Well, I know they're kind of weird sometimes about taking photos. Like you can sneak photos off from the side if you're not, but don't walk up to him and go hi, snap, and flash. So as my hand swooped down to grab the camera,
super secret.
I was.
Squirrel.
My hand swooped down, grabbed the camera, and went click as I picked it up off the counter. And so that's why it's mostly counter at that weird angle, because it's in motion.
Well, but then you brought the camera to me, and I looked at the picture. I was like, oh, yeah, that's good. That's good. Oh, hey, there's me and him together, and he's signing. I was like, awesome. And Sarah walks up to me and goes, I got a picture of you shaking his hand. And I went, are you serious? And it didn't really sink in, because then we moved on to Jake Lloyd and we started talking about that. And it wasn't until you posted her pictures online and I went, there's me shaking Billy's hand. And I was like, awesome job, Sarah.
And she was a second too late of me shaking Jake's hand.
Oh, darn. Well, we posed with Jake, so I that was kind of cool, too, because Caitlin and I are both in the photo of that one, which... That was another one. I got home, and it was, well, I think I told the story, but I was looking for the photos. Like, I swear we took a picture with Jake Lloyd. Where's it at? And then yours popped up, and I went, oh, Sarah and Keith took the picture. That's what it was. So I still have to download that. But anyway, I'm dwelling on Billy because Billy's
and you got more autographs.
I did get more. I got both Gil Gerard and Aaron Gray from Buck Rogers and the 25th Century fame, and
which. I grew up watching Buck Rogers. I totally would have loved that. I walked over and watched them talk to people. I didn't actually go up and talk to them. I couldn't drop that much money at this convention for those guys. So I'm going to have to get
in
them
addition to Billy
around.
D.
Exactly.
Wow. Which their prices weren't too high.
They were $25 a piece.
$25. That's not
I
bad.
mean, that's kind of the standard.
That's another $50.
Autograph. Yeah. Well, and then I bought one of Aaron for my dad.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that to him for Father's Day. I hope he doesn't listen because I just spoiled
it. That's a gift thing, though. That totally makes sense. I mean,
but and the problem. You remember me talking to you about the problem?
Oh yes.
Okay.
The problem.
I ran into the problem. You know, not that it was a bad experience, but at Galley I got William Russell's autograph, who played Ian Chesterton, and he didn't have any what I would consider to be iconic Ian photos.
Yeah.
The one that I brought back.
This one's awesome.
It's not that it's a bad photo.
It's just a great photo.
It's in color.
Yeah,
and
which
it's
is weird.
And you know, he had one black and white photo of Ian, but it was like him backing out of a coffin or something. It was a really weird screenshot. You know, just kind of sort of turned to the camera a little bit. Anyway, so I'd made the comment that, you know, well, I think I want to start hunting in advance when I'm going to go to these things and find a picture online of the people that I like,
right?
So that I'll print that off, and then I'll still pay the full price for the autograph.
See, I would have a hard time paying full price, bringing my own photo.
Well, just to make
sure. Just knowing comic artists will sign whatever you bring.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, it's because you've already purchased the stuff, so... you know.
If it's a lesser price... I could see paying a lesser price for bringing your own autograph or bringing your own picture.
I could too, and some people will do that.
I won't do that.
Some people will do that, and the reason that the stars charge for those is because they pay for their photos. Right. I mean, they don't get those free. They have to contract out with the studio to purchase from somewhere to have these things printed, and so you know they're recouping a little bit of their cost on that. I don't have a problem with that. And a lot of stars will have a provision where if it's something that you bring up, it's only $10 or it's free, or if you're going to buy one of the photos, it's going to cost you this much because I have to reimburse the photos. I don't have a problem with that. Right. But by printing your own, you're definitely getting
what you want
signed.
Right.
So I did some research and I went online and I looked for Buck Rogers photos, and I looked. The whole thing came up, and it was all these images from Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, and I looked at them and I went, they'll have that one, they'll have that one. They'll have this one with Gil with his shirt off. And he did. And they'll have this one where Aaron Gray's wearing this weird flight attendant outfit with a skirt and a hat. And it just doesn't, because these are all promotional, like pre-series stuff. And then I found one that I really, really liked, but I didn't get it printed. And then Mel said that the one that she honestly wanted was the DVD cover with the two of them, and that's the one she wanted. So we did get that one, and we ran to Kinko's Friday night before we left town to go to Bruce Hornsby, because we had a full weekend. So we're at Kinko's in the self-help machine, hoping they don't notice that I'm trying to print off some copyrighted material here. And unlike before when I've done this, it gives you the option, you size it up to whatever you want. Well, this time it went, okay, click, and it took my money and printed. And it printed 2 copies of this thing, and it didn't resize them properly. So it cut off. It just said Rogers across the top instead of Buck with the logo, and it cut it off on the bottom. And it didn't size it for the 8x10 photo. It was really grainy and blurry. I mean, the whole thing. And I'm out $9 now. So I'm like, really? And we had to jump in the car and go. So I was like, she's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'll just deal with it because I know which photo I'm going to wind up with. And sure enough, that's the photo I've got. I for sure wanted one of Erin in the blue spandex because that's, but I wanted one with her. Well, we did it backwards because I looked at Erin's photos and I kind of looked over at Gil's photos and I was like, yeah, we'll just get this one. This is the one I kind of figured I'd wind up with. Well, then I went over when we went to get Gil's autograph. Somebody was standing in line when I kind of snuck a peek at his photos. He had one of the two of them in the dress uniforms, which had the gold sashes. And personally, I think those were some of the best looking military dress uniforms in science fiction history. I love those outfits. And I would have liked that photo, but I didn't see it. And I went to Erin first. Well, now I want them both on the same photo. I'm not going to split them up now. So at this point, it's too late, and it's this one. But so yeah, I did run into that, and
the problem.
I ran into the problem with the photos, but they were still both great, and they were a lot of fun. And Erin told a very interesting story. Now, Erin Gray is currently an agent, which not everybody knows. This is one of the things that she does, and she represents other people. And I know this through a mutual friend of ours that we used to do things with, and he's interviewed her several times and worked with her on bringing people to Topeka for little things. And she looked at me, and Mel and I are both wearing the scarves, and she goes, "Oh, you guys are obviously Doctor Who fans." And we laughed and said, "Well, yeah." And she says, "How big do you think John Barrowman would be at something like this?" And we went, "Huh, huge." I mean, you're asking the wrong people. We're going to give you the answer that we want to hear. So... I asked her. I said, "Well, do you represent a John?" And she kind of gave me that, like I wasn't expecting you to know what I was talking about look. But then I guess she just kind of wrote it off like, "Well, fans know everything, so yeah, he must know I'm an agent." And she was like, "Well, yeah, actually, I do represent John. In fact, we just signed him for this big con that's coming up in Chicago." And I said, "Oh, is it Chicago TARDIS?" And she said, "No, it's something else." And I wish now that I could remember which one it was. It's an upcoming science fiction Chicago.
Omnicon.
Omnicon, I think is the name of it.
It's in...
It's this summer.
August.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
So John Barrowman's coming to Omnicon. If it's not up there, you heard it here first because I got it from his agent. So we talked a little bit about that, and she kind of gave the, we'd have to see about doing something like that. And then she said, well, we were also thinking about maybe trying to bring Simon Fisher Becker, but I didn't know how well he'd go over. And Mel and I both went, he's the coolest guest ever! You have to go and talk to him and do all this. So we had a fun time with that. And Simon, you're welcome. Got you a plug. Simon, friend of the show, Fisher Becker.
That's right.
So yeah, hopefully look for them soon. And that all ties in too with our
which there last year we lamented about how there wasn't a lot of Who presence at the con.
Yeah.
Right.
There were a couple of doctors dressed up. There were scarce merchandise. This year, a whole nother story. I was so pleased with the presence of Doctor Who.
Yeah, it was terrific.
Not only did the vendors have more Who, which I found River's TARDIS, or River's Journal, the BBC printed journal, and picked that up. But I saw the Psychic Container.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
There was this. It was a bit steep for my price. It was like 40 or 50, which I don't know how much more that is than online. But they had the nano recorders. They had Sonics out at every which Sonic available. They had the laser screwdriver. They had the Jadoon thingy to indicate who's alien and who's not.
It's a fairly worthless toy in my opinion.
There weren't as many.
Like the Bajoran tricorder, really?
There weren't as many action figures, but there were a lot of those prop toys that they had available. And there was one booth, I think it was for Krypton Comics out of Omaha. Also we're selling slightly psychic paper. Which I was like,
they were.
Okay, they got business card holders and put a piece of paper in it, and we're selling it for $5.
And who had that idea first?
Sean.
This guy.
But it was still cool to see.
I think that was U.S. Toy because they were right next to the Krypton booth. And when I went up there,
that might be.
She had like one tiny little section of table. She did the same thing. She saw the scarf, and she says, "I'm really sorry. This is all I have left."
Oh, wow. When I was there was a lot of the psychic containers. They had the nano recorders. They had something else.
She
too.
had like 4 or 5 box toys. I'd be honest, I didn't even see what they were. She had 2 Sonics, and she had a couple of the Sonic paper containers, and that was it. Everything else was gone. And I almost bought a Sonic because it was a Tom Baker Sonic.
Oh, yeah.
And it was $39, which is actually a little bit cheaper than what our Hastings used to have them marked
Yeah.
at. And I almost went ahead and did it. And she made the comment. She said, "This one's my favorite. I know everybody goes for the ones with the lights and everything, but she says, I just like the look of this one." I said, "Yeah, it's mine too." And if I hadn't just spent a bunch of money on a bunch of other stuff, I'd have probably broke down and got one.
And there were a lot of Doctor Who art represented, too.
A lot of Doctor Who art.
As I mentioned, our friend Blake went with us, and he bought Sarah and I as an engagement present / birthday present for Sarah, because hers was just Tuesday, a steampunk Doctor Who. But it's not Doctor Who. It's Physician Unknown.
Yeah. I saw that. That was really cool.
Which was really cool.
A lot of great artists. I was encouraged to see there were a lot of artists that Mel and I had run into at Nakacon. And when we were talking, because they had the anime manga style doctors in their artwork, and we had said, "Have you ever heard of Planet Comicon?" And they're like, "No." And we're like, "It's in Kansas City. It's not that far. You should totally come."
Right.
And a lot of those artists showed up. So we thought that was very cool that people listened to us. You know? That we said, "Yeah, come down and take advantage of this." So, but yeah, overall, it was just a very, very good impression.
It was.
And we had a little bit of a setback at the costume contest.
Yeah, I entered the costume contest with my 11th Doctor costume. I did not win first place. I did not win second place. There was a decent amount
He
of...
didn't place.
I didn't place. But there was a decent amount of cheering.
There was a decent amount of cheering.
You had a very good.
The noise you just heard was Glenn tripping over a power cable.
You had very good reception from the fans.
Yes. I don't know how the reception was for the other 11th Doctors.
Not as well.
Not as well.
Not as well. Okay, good.
The first one got a good response because he did a little doctorish thing as he came across the stage and was play acting.
I know one of them flirted with the host. One of the co-hosts.
Yeah, I don't remember which one that was.
That's what Sarah said.
He was like I said, maybe we're biased because obviously you're one of us. But I really do think there were 3
in the contest.
We had 3 in the contest. I think I saw a total of 5 or 6.
Yeah, there were 2
overall.
femmes.
2 femme 11s. There were several 10s, including a femme 10.
A femme 10. I saw, one femme 10, and only one other. There was a femme 4.
A femme 4, a femme
regular
5.
A male 4, which was in the contest. Mm-hmm. A femme 5. I think, and there was a male 9.
And a male 9, yes.
And the femme 4 made her own K9.
It was cool. It was a pull-along K-line.
It was
pretty cool.
It was a pull-along K-line. It had... It was one of... I have him in the galley, so it was the best K9 I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
I feel really bad that Galley has colored so many of my perceptions now. Because we had a TARDIS.
Yeah, there was a life-size
There was
TARDIS.
a life-size TARDIS at the convention, and it was like, ooh, ah! And in the back of my head,
the
I'm
doors
going...
were duct taped shut.
Yeah, it couldn't go in.
Because how awesome would that have been of the 3 of us with our sticking our heads out of the
Yeah,
TARDIS?
absolutely. I totally thought that. We should have grabbed the gal that actually had the TARDIS there and said, "Hey."
I wasn't
Need this
entirely
one
sure
photo.
if it was them.
It was the people
them
with the
4?
key.
Oh, was it?
The
that
one that you
booth?
saw that said rent the TARDIS. It was that
Okay.
booth that brought it. So,
I'm
and a lot
glad
of people
they
got
did.
their pictures with it. So
Yeah,
that was
A lot
definitely
of
one
people.
of the.
It was a highlight.
It was a highlight.
Yeah.
And then we did there. They had a panel discussion. Wasn't officially a panel. It was going to be just a meetup with the KC Time Lords, which is
we discovered the week before
Kansas
the
City area
con.
Time Lords.
There is the Kansas City Time Lord
Society. There you go. That's why Sean's giving me the card because I keep messing.
And they had a
stacks
meetup.
of paper.
And a lot of these the cosplayers are a part of this, and now, thankfully, we discovered this before going to the con that this existed. So now we're a part of the Kansas City Time Lord Society, and hopefully, some of you are listening, and if so, welcome.
Yes,
for listening.
absolutely. And we were glad to be able to network with you guys and realize that there's more of a presence in the area than we expected, because we don't find a lot of them in Topeka.
Yeah. And we look forward to interacting and working with you guys in the future.
That was the most exciting thing about that aspect of it, was that
there was so much
many
Doctor Who presence
and such enthusiasm and excitement, and people handing out these flyers and make sure you come to the panel later, and just the fact that there has been there's an actual presence in Kansas City again. I mean, it's something we've talked about before, that we feel.
Just in the area, there's not a lot. But
well, yeah, I mean, it's a very niche, low-key underground movement, and this really focused that it's not anymore. It's come back up again.
It is at the surface.
So that was very cool.
And they plan on doing some events, hopefully, that we can take part of. And everyone...
They've got a big viewing party coming up in November for the 49th anniversary. So.
And I was standing... They did the 12 and under costume contest first. And so Sarah... We waited kind of in the atrium area, and Sarah went and found seats. And I kind of was like, okay, I better wait back and wait for them to call for the contestants. And I was hanging out with the doctors. They're all so nice. All of them. Especially, I didn't catch any of their actual names, but the guy who played the fourth Doctor, the girl who played the fourth Doctor, the girl who played the fifth Doctor, several of the several of the ones who played the 11th Doctor. I mean, they were all so very nice. And if you're listening, a big hello to you guys. It was great meeting you guys. Sean showing us pictures that we can't portray.
I'm trying to distract him.
It was just so nice to be in such like-minded situations and around people who the Femme 4 had a book of quotes, and she was saying them off and seeing if people could recognize what they were from.
Oh, that's cute. That's cool.
Yeah. And we got into somewhat of a discussion about, I'm trying to remember now. It was I want to say it was a returning villain or something in Series 6 that they were like, yeah, what about this? And I was like, and I was able to chime in and be like, well, you know, we only got to see that once or whatever. And so that was a lot of fun.
Cool.
And if you're in the area and interested in joining them, their website is kctls.org, which is Kansas City Time Lord Society, and they're also on Facebook.
Yes.
And we look forward to many things teaming up with them in the future that we can possibly put together. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and one of the main organizers that was on the panel, we stopped and talked to for a little bit, who was very nice. I need to pull up my computer again so I can find the names of these people that I'm referring to, because obviously, as dressed as a doctor, they approached me. And the guy that kind of spearheaded getting the panel and the meetup, I talked to, and he was very nice. He complimented me on my costume, which is always good to hear.
Yeah,
especially from a fellow Doctor Who fan.
Yeah, sure.
I want to throw a quick shout out to who's the guy who does Slugcast? What's his name?
Matt.
Matt.
Yes. We were able to meet up with Matt.
Hi, Matt.
We were able to meet up with
Very
Matt.
nice guy.
Yes.
And thank you. I'm going to pass it along after I finish it, and I might, if I like, I'm going to rip you guys copies. But he passed along a CD to me.
Oh, yes.
Of Doctor Who inspired and remixes of the theme.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take a listen to it, and I'm gonna pass it along to you guys so you guys can take a listen.
Sure.
I felt bad that we didn't get to spend as much time talking with Matt as I would have liked. He wound up catching me right at the end of the day when everybody was grumpy and hungry and wanted to leave, and so it was like, okay, because we have to go now. So I felt Matt, I didn't intentionally give you the short shift there. I hope you know that. I was with a large group and everybody was getting angry.
Yeah.
So
Kirk was the guy that I was referring to, and very nice guy from what I got to talk to. It was very nice meeting him, and Amy, who played the Fifth Doctor, as well as Hillary, who was the Fourth Doctor.
Okay.
All very nice, and I look forward to interacting with them in the future.
Yep. Very good.
any other convention things?
I don't think so. Nope. No.
That's right.
We had a lot of great. We all had a good time. That was the important thing. Caitlin had a good time too. My daughter, who I don't know if I mentioned she was dressed as Supergirl. So
you did.
Did
Chrissy,
I? Okay.
Chrissy did.
Yes,
you did.
That's right. And then she's there's pictures on Facebook too. So
Very briefly, also in the news, we want to wish Patrick Troughton a very happy
Absolutely.
birthday.
We'd be
Once
remiss
again, we've
to,
managed to
yeah.
time our podcast in
wish
sync
him a
with
happy
a
birthday.
birthday.
He can't hear you, but
Well,
maybe he can.
but we will acknowledge.
we're going to
that
send
today
we're
would
going to
have been
send
his
our
birthday.
best wishes out into the vortex.
There you go.
And
Catch up to him now.
they'll get to him.
What's coming up on the schedule? Because we sort of bumped something a week, Sean.
We did bump something a week, and for those of you that were expecting to listen to tonight and get an archive on Leela, we'll do that next week. Because we knew we had a lot of news with the conventions and the official companion and upcoming scheduling news and whatnot. So we bumped the companion archive on Leela to next week's show.
But so then, what are we going to watch for Friday night? Who?
Well, it's funny that you asked that because I'm going to finally get a chance to sit down. and next week's Friday Night Who, we're going to jump back to John Pertwee's era. We're watching the Sea Devils, darn it.
Yeah, you like how Sean likes to manipulate this back so that he gets a chance to watch something that he neglected to watch
To
last
redeem
time
himself.
for an adversary archive last time.
And as I mentioned, I saw Blake again today. He's going to join us for Friday Night Who.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
And he has a little surprise for the two of you.
Oh, okay.
He already gave me his surprise. It's a surprise for me.
Okay.
But I'm not going to reveal what it is because it's the same for the three of us.
Ah, okay.
So I already got mine, but you guys get yours on Friday.
Very good.
I feel bad now. I didn't buy Blake anything.
Oh, don't feel bad. I know how much it cost him.
It's the thought that counts, Keith.
It is, but
Don't be that guy. Anyway, so yeah, we'll watch Sea Devils for Friday Night Who this week, and then obviously we've already reviewed that. Well, you guys reviewed it. I didn't say much because I still haven't seen it. But now that there's a copy of Sea Devils in the house,
Wait a minute.
I didn't finish it.
I was going to say, if we're going to put that out there, I'm not going to let you burden this, or I'm not going to have you carry this entire burden. Somebody only watched half of it before he reviewed it.
At least I watched half. I watched 3 of the 6 parts.
In our defense, that was before we'd kind of worked out the best way to do this. So we were lumping a lot of homework into these short weeks.
And it wasn't one we didn't have readily available on DVD.
Yeah, we didn't own it at
that
the
was
time.
early on in the run.
And well, we did the entire the entire Sea Devil run.
The Silurian.
The entire Silurian
including
run.
the Silurian 2-part. No, we did do those separate, but yeah.
So the Silurians, which is 7 parts,
Seven
we got
parts.
that watched.
Warriors of
Sea
the
Devils
Deep.
is
Warriors of the
6
Deep was
parts.
4, and Sea Devils is 6. So I mean,
Yeah,
that's
there
a
was
lot
a
of who
lot.
to cover in 1 week, and
Somebody
so
got
That's
it all
7
in himself.
That's
Somebody got it all
17
in.
episodes.
I don't think Glenn sleeps.
Glenn only sleeps about 3 hours a night, so I do have a lot more time to watch things.
Anyway, we'll do Sea Devils for Friday Night Who next week, since we've already reviewed it. We will then jump into the show next week with our adversary with our companion archive for Leela, and we'll cover Face of Evil and Robots of Death, which were our Friday Night Who's from 2 weeks ago. So hopefully you were all taking notes so that we can cover those.
Yes.
And if you've sent feedback in on those episodes, we've saved it and we'll get to it. Leastwise, I hope Keith has saved it.
We haven't gotten any in on that yet.
I
So
thought
send your
I
feedback
thought somebody
in.
sent some. Didn't Chrissy send
No.
some in one of her emails? Really?
Yeah.
You're thinking of last week.
I'm
where she
thinking
got
of last
the
week.
weeks confused.
All right. And then coming up in April, we start Renegades. I'm so excited because we're going to go through the entire Who history. And no, we're not. We're we're going to watch a bunch of not so nice people.
Yeah.
Not necessarily adversaries, but
Right.
but they could be.
Yes.
These are all people who the rogues gallery, so to speak, of former Time Lords and ladies and people who like to stir the pot for the Doctor, starting with William Hartnell, and we're going to watch The Time Meddler. So I'm really excited because that's another one I've not seen. So it's always a journey for me as well as you guys here on the show.
I also want to, since we're doing cons this week, I also want to point out that Icon 31 in New York is coming up the weekend of March 30th, which is next week.
Oh, let's go.
Through Sunday, April 1st. It's in New York. Or it's in, I'm not sure exactly where it's at.
It's in New York.
It is New York, but it's
let's go.
I want to say it's...
I know the guys from Podshock.
Yes, it's a little suburb. Well, Ken Deep's huge into...
he lives in New York,
well, and he's one of the... He co-organizes this.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So he's got a hand in it.
Well, we've got an in with Ken.
That's right. There you go.
I met Ken.
There you
Ken,
go.
send us plane tickets and an invite, man. We'll come up.
Yeah. Some of the people that they've got on the slate are Jeremy Bullock will be there. Obviously, we talked about him.
Hal the Archer?
Hal the Archer.
Hal the Archer.
Also Boba Fett, I think, was another role he did.
That's a
kind
small
of
one.
Side.
Nobody knows about that one.
Nana Visitor from DS9 will be there.
And Torchwood.
And
Miracle Day.
Torchwood. That's
Miracle
right. She
Day.
was in Torchwood Miracle Day.
I love Nana Visitor.
Also, but in the more prominent Doctor Who realm, Daphne Ashbrook from Doctor Who the movie. And then, of course, Sylvester McCoy was supposed to be there this year, but unfortunately he had to bow out last minute. So
something about a movie
at
he's
Galley,
shooting, I think.
So what? Yeah, a little movie, little 2-part movie he's doing.
Yeah, nothing big.
But while they were at Galley, Daphne actually hit up Paul McGann and said, "Hey, we're doing this little convention. Sylvester's out. How about you come up there?"
Would you like to regenerate?
I would love to. So Paul McGann is actually going to sub in for Sylvester McCoy, and he will be at Icon this year. So
That's
if
very
you're in
cool.
the New York area and you can attend, I highly suggest it. This is one of those cons that's getting bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah.
They are getting
from
more and
what-
more of a
from what
Doctor
I've
Who
heard-
presence every year.
This is the
And
biggest
so-
Doctor Who presence they've had so far.
Absolutely. And the Podchuck boys are involved, and they help out with this a lot. And we will plug their podcast as well. It's podshock.net or the Gallifreyan Embassy.com, I believe, can get you to their website and their podcast. And they're kind of the... they call Louis Trapani, who's one of the co-hosts, the podfather of Doctor Who podcasts, because he was one of the first ones out. He and Ken were the first out of the gate. So,
Inspirations to
yes,
us all.
absolutely.
Yes.
So,
And if for no other reason, you got to go see Paul. I mean,
absolutely.
If you're in the area,
have an
go.
advantage. Go.
And if you go and you're listening, we'd love to hear about your experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a few more surprises on deck, which I'm not going to spoil tonight, just in case. But
In case it changes.
in case it changes, we don't change anything around here.
Yeah.
So hopefully we will be able to surprise you with some very, very, very cool things coming up.
Yes.
And not just like, oh, we're going to watch this episode. I mean, like, this is kind of a big deal for us.
Oh yeah.
so
This is a big deal for us. This is a nexus or a stepping stone, should I say?
we hope.
Anyway, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Be seeing you.
You didn't one up us this week.
No, I didn't. Low key. Well played.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.